Welcome to the show. My guest today is Tiffany Lai, founder of Plantiful & Co. I asked Tiffany to talk with me today about pivoting within your career. You see, Tiffany worked for the NBA, the National Basketball Association, for over 4 years. And during those 4 years with the NBA, Tiffany pivoted 4 different times to 4 different job titles. Then, like so many others watching or listening, COVID-19 interrupted her career, but that did not stop Tiffany from pivoting to a whole other area of work. Tiffany, when you worked for the NBA, you started in social responsibility, then moved to international merchandising, then to business operations as an associate manager, and then associate manager in merchandising and events. Tiffany, what, you can't hold down a job?
What can I say? I'm a jack of all trades.
Well, I like that. I like your answer to that question. And I think that's a great way to respond to it when someone sees that on paper. And we'll talk about that a little later. Let's start by asking you to tell everyone how you got for what for many people would say is a dream job in a major sports association, the NBA, and how you moved to different positions within it.
For sure. And thanks, John, for having me on the show. This is super exciting. Um, 4 years at the NBA, just over 4 years, has been super exciting. As you can imagine, sports and entertainment is fast paced, exciting, exhilarating. And I think a lot of people don't know this about the NBA in Canada, but we're quite a lean team. When I started there, I think there were about 11 people. So it was really,
Oh,
really tight knit. And when I left there, it was about 17. So huge testament to senior leadership and the growth of that team, right?
right.
Um, Considering the four roles and having such a lean team, what's awesome about that lean team is that you get to do and get foresight into so many different business verticals. So naturally, and if you're someone like me who's pretty inquisitive, you're saying, hey, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. I would love to do something with that team. Or, wow, new business development. This is awesome. It's basically procuring jobs to come in and work with the NBA. And you get pretty inquisitive and you just kind of ask the questions to say, can I work on something like this? Is there an opportunity to work on something like this? And of course, there's a lot of steps to go about that way. Definitely talk to your manager, of course, to say, if there's an opportunity to learn in something that's not our category of business, I would love to. And it would definitely not take away from my performance of this role. I think there's an opportunity to ask the question. There's no harm in asking. And I think just having the courage to do that, the biggest thing you're going to get is a no, and that's okay.
Right. And I like that you're honest about some people's hesitations, which is I want to move within my company, but I also don't want to, like you said, offend, upset, distract my current manager.
Mhm.
So can you talk a little bit more about that type of ideal relationship between an employee and a manager who ideally recognizes that you're an excellent candidate, but may not want to share you with another department, let alone lose you?
I think definitely take that as a compliment. Okay. So
Ah,
definitely take that as a compliment. I don't want to share you. You're so strong on my team, but I think truly if your manager is really wanting to see you grow, they will help you as much as they can to see you grow because growth comes for you, but also for the organization as a whole. You want to do
hmm,
3 things and you're going to kill it. Absolutely. Why would we hold you back from that? Right. So
right.
I think that when during my time there, they saw a lot of this with a lot of their employees. A lot of their employees there had cross functionalities. They had dual roles, and I think that's a testament to bringing in the right people and bringing in people with multifaceted skill sets. So that's a great thing for senior leadership to recognize and then apply.
I like that. And can you talk a bit more about some other lessons that you would have learned in the MBA?
Definitely many lessons, but I'll share only a quick few.
Okay.
I definitely think something that I learned is feedback is amazing. Feedback tells you, where you are in your trajectory of someone else's analysis of yourself. I do think that you have to also look within yourself the most genuine version of yourself, to know what your strengths are too.
Hmm.
You soon, and we'll talk about this a little later, I'm sure too, is that get caught up in this industry where it's fast and it's, on demand and very demanding, and you're kind of slotted into these roles that you're definitely going to thrive in.
Hmm.
But what is the best for you? How are you going to make yourself the most essential to work in one role and do it really well, or two roles and do it really well? And what is that tipping point where you're taking on something and it just tips the scales, saying, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to burn out, or oh my gosh, you know what? I can't handle this and I need to have a conversation with my manager. So the one thing I would definitely say and share, I hope that everyone takes away this one point, is know yourself genuinely and your strengths, and really communicate that to your manager. And I think that the line of communication is so key. At the end of the day, we're all people trying to, make sure that we're doing our jobs well and progressing for the company. But at the same time, you can't do that if you're not fully truthful or yourself. So
I love it.
genuine conversations and communication is definitely key.
I like it, and we hear that. We're starting to hear more and more of that, and I'm glad it's something. Honesty and communication. It's not just for personal relationships with people
Mhm.
in your daily life, but it absolutely applies in the workplace. Honesty and communication. And Tiffany, you're speaking my language there with regard to being honest about how many things you can do at one time really well. I don't know about you, but for me, it's two. And I've asked myself that question. I've challenged that limit, and I have realized that for me personally, my focus can be on two things really well, and then anything else starts to lose out in terms of quality and
Absolutely.
attention. And it's
Mhm.
tough, but you have to keep coming back and acknowledging that reality about yourself.
And it's setting those boundaries for yourself,
Yeah.
and really respecting your own self and time to know, what, three things, it's just the tipping scale for me.
Hmm.
Two, I'm going to knock it out of the park for sure. But you just kind of have to have that self awareness. Something I'm still learning, self awareness, is okay, take a step back. Am I doing this well? Am I communicating this properly? Is this too much? I can't be a rock star, an all star. You just have to do what makes sense for everyone and be fair.
So can you talk a bit more then about your career growth philosophy, or how you grow personally and professionally? Or do you have a sort of philosophy or a set of guidelines for your career and life?
I think everyone has some sort of philosophies or learnings or something that they live by that they are following. So, as an athlete, a former athlete, I believe in visualization, manifestation, goal setting, and the philosophy also is truly understanding, like I said before, who are you, what can you bring to the table, and are you learning something every day? I think I remember at the NBA, and maybe this isn't a testament to me shifting, is am I learning something today? Am
Hmm.
I reaching out to a colleague who could teach me a little bit today? Not deep dive, but hey, my colleague who manages media distribution. I don't know anything about media distribution. Can you teach me? Like, give me on our walk to lunch, can you like tell me what you do for media distribution? I
Hmm.
remember one of my really great friends and colleagues at the NBA is a whiz about stats and basketball. And, on my side, I will be totally truthful. I was on the fashion side and community side. And that didn't, necessarily mean I knew every single stat about a player, but I think that's how it nicely ties in for everyone bringing something to the table. But I remember when All Star, we were taking a stroll, and he's gonna laugh when he watches this. He was giving me a 101 on the NBA draft, and it
Hmm.
was mind blowing. It was so cool. It was educational, and I've been at the NBA for 4 years, and I'm like, you know what? This is a deep dive into understanding fully. So the philosophy, if I could stamp it, is to learn, to keep growing. If you are comfortable, I know it's such a cliche saying, you're really not growing. If you're
Hmm.
if you're comfortable, you're not growing. You have to be uncomfortable to go through those growing pains, to learn something, feel something about yourself that you haven't before. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
I do too. That is solid advice. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking about past experiences in my career, and I think that advice is so useful because I do not have many memories of people me asking me to explain an area of my job on a lunch break, or if I'm honestly me going and asking someone else, let's go out for lunch and tell me about your job. I want to learn a bit more about the details of your job. And instead, maybe I learned something about an episode of Family Guy that I was watching during my lunch break at work. And all things considered, that wasn't the best use of time. So I think that's really helpful advice, especially for new workers looking to advance. And that goes back to your original sort of action that you took, which is being inquisitive. And clearly it can lead to great opportunities. How about 5-year plans? I'm curious about your thoughts on that. When you, for example, were at the MBA, did you have in mind that you would progress every year to another position? Or how about just in general, people around you have mentioned 5-year plans. I'm always curious about people's thoughts.
Yeah,
There's this joke, right? If you want to make God laugh, show him your 5-year plan.
that's a really great question. I smiled and almost laughed throughout that question being asked because we just don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit, it's
Mm-hmm.
so unsuspected, unplanned for, it's just beyond our control, right? And
Right.
like I mentioned from the question before, is like you can visualize, you can manifest, you can bring it to life to an extent. And I think you have to kind of be a little bit flexible on where that moving target is. You can have that solid target,
Yeah.
maybe build it out a little bit, but just know and have that little bit of understanding, especially because maybe we've all experienced COVID, that that's a moving target. It's great to have something goal set, like a goal setting activity, or, mapping it out on where you want your trajectory of your career or your personal life to go.
Right.
It's always a moving target. For me, I definitely didn't know that I was even going to be in sports or basketball. So my 5-year plan was totally, swapped out. And I think you kind of have to be flexible, like I mentioned, to embrace the stage that you're in, or the point that you're in, and kind of say, who am I genuinely, and how am I going to grow through this? And I think one thing that I will mention, and maybe this applies to all of the other questions, is yeah, the inquisitivity is key for sure. But making genuine, lasting connections. I know that we hear this so much.
Mm.
All of my friends in sports and entertainment are still my friends. Every connection I have, we still catch up in some sort of way or another, right? And I think it just humanizes us to know that maybe we don't all live to work. Maybe
Yeah.
we're working to live, and to make those connections and know that those are going to progress longer than our career life.
Now you've met a lot of people in your career with MBA and elsewhere. I'm wondering how many people that you've met that have benefited you relationship wise or career wise through volunteering. And now is a time when many people, for example, are not working, and arguably it's a good time to volunteer if we can do it in a safe way. But generally speaking, we're in the last couple of years, I would say there's a push toward volunteering, but there's also a hesitation among young people for working for nothing, and needing to really justify a bit more for themselves why volunteering could be of benefit. Do you have some experiences with that?
Definitely. When I was at George Brown for sports and event marketing, absolutely different circumstances, considering our pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I just reached out. You know what? It's that connection again. What's that common connection? Did that alumni also come from George Brown? I did a lot of work in SR when I was volunteering. So, cancer foundations. I did a lot with sports for the Argos, back to my university roots with Shinorama and cystic fibrosis. So a lot of cause marketing. But I would say, because COVID right now, I would say I would love to see students or graduated students reach out to challenge us to say, I would love if you could volunteer your time. Could
Hmm.
we both volunteer our time up to connect, considering there are no live events, there are no job shadowing right now? You know, can we have this great and open conversation where we can volunteer both of our time up? And I think that's a really cool thing versus, you know, kind of putting yourself at risk if you're not comfortable to go to the jobs that are currently open right now. And I think that's the way to communicate it, if I could recommend or suggest.
Right.
And I think that would open up a lot of conversations for, you know, people who have been in the industry or are in the industry to just, you know, volunteer up their time for that student or a graduate.
That's great advice. And I'll add to that. Someone recently asked me, I want to volunteer for an organization, but they don't have any opportunities. And it occurred to me that one piece of advice is not to just, ring them up or send them an email and say, I want to volunteer, because sometimes people don't know what they need help with. Actually, let them know what your skills are and offer up to them how you could volunteer, how your efforts could benefit them in a specific way. Help them make that connection, and then create that opportunity for you.
Absolutely. And I would even say for a lot of the graduate of the sports and event program or even event planning program, you know, you still have to do your event at the end, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's virtual or live, use that as a platform saying, hey, um, you know, I'm so excited to reach out. I've just finished this great event that we, you know, put on for X amount of people. Showcase what you've done and use what you have been doing and transfer that into that
Right.
conversation and that language. Of course, everything is through networking and having those conversations, but sell yourself too. Sell yourself a little bit and give yourself some credit and be proud of what the work that you've done.
All right, Tiffany, let's talk about something that has affected many people, including you. That is, uh, I said, having your career interrupted, but the reality is losing one's job to COVID-19, which affected many people, especially in the sports industry. You among them. What was it like? Did you see it coming? Uh, did you already know what you were going to do next? How did you respond?
That is, it's a tough question, and a question that is, I'm hoping that I can share and it'll help more people because I know a lot of people are in the same boat.
Hmm.
But to answer some questions, COVID sucks. And of course, losing your job um, and being let go during COVID is not easy. Absolutely, I did not know it was coming. And of course, when you think about it here and there, you know, companies have an obligation to be healthy, and with the lack of global experiential events, which I manage as part of my job, they were all canceled.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it that way, from what I said before, there are some things you can't control. And that's something I held on to. This is beyond my control. This was from COVID, a global pandemic that happened. And you have to kind of look within yourself to say, this is not on performance. This was not on my relationships. This isn't on anything except for this, you know, outer thing that was unplanned for that came.
Right.
And the way I looked at it was, wow, this is a great opportunity, you know, like this is a great opportunity to maybe pick things up that you've put on pause for such a busy and exhilarating, fast-paced career, you know? And so, like I mentioned before, I love how everything's kind of tying in synergistically. It's, wow, who was I or who am I outside of basketball, outside of sports and entertainment?
Yeah.
And I've always been super into fitness. I was an
Mhm.
athlete, you know, and so what better time? I registered back to school for my orthomolecular health practitioner nutrition certification. What a
Oh,
mouthful.
yeah.
And it's basically holistic nutrition. And I started Plentiful. And so when you think about it this way, I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I had to take a little bit of time to reassess and like, you know, to reassess and really look within myself to say, who am I outside of sports? And what really fuels my fire and what really gets me so excited? And I always remembered when I was a fitness trainer or when I was helping people with their health and wellness for nutrition, It was goal setting for them. It was trying to get them, to a place where they were so happy with themselves, healthy with themselves.
Hmm.
And that's something I wanted to action on. But that's, twofold. That's for nutrition, but it's also for your environment, which is why Plantiful kind of came about as well.
Well, I want
So,
to talk more about Plantiful.
mhm.
And first of all, I love that you took the time, and I love that you asked those questions of yourself
Mhm.
about what I like how you put that, what fuels my fire. And I think that's a really poignant and applicable question nowadays for people to uh, ask themselves who are in this circumstance, whether it be COVID-19 or in the future when they find themselves, when things can't be planned and find themselves having to look at that next step. But for you, I mean, I was just so surprised to see how quickly this new venture came about, Plantiful and Co., which you can find on Instagram. That's a great place to start. What's the concept and how did you arrive at it? And I'm sure there's no coincidence that you have some beautiful plants behind you.
Oh, Plantable is so exciting. And, the premise of how it was born was to just bring life more life, bring your life more life. And it was born during COVID. So, of course, that's our messaging. And of course, that's what we're integral to. What started out as a conversation over brunch kind of blossomed and stemmed into this, side passion project coming to life. And it just kind of took off. It had legs, and it wasn't even walking, it was running. And
Right.
it was exciting because we were saying, okay, you know what? We have to be smart about this, me and my partner. And we were saying, let's do something low risk, kind of boutique style, online only, no bricks and mortars, no
Mhm.
retail space for anything at risk for COVID. And let's really, like, see where we can go with this. So it's twofold. Plantiful. It's a plant boutique, solely on social media. And it's also a plant styling service. We got a flood of inquiries about styling spaces. So whether it's your home, a cafe, restaurants, real estate, we did everything. And the traction of it and the excitement of it kind of led us to do this pop-up at Stack Market so that we can
Mhm.
have our brand be met by other people. Being an online business is hard to humanize your brand. So what we did was we popped up at Stack Market outside, so it was pretty safe.
Yeah.
And we met a whole bunch of people in the plant community, but just bettering their lives and their selves. And it was really beautiful to see how people were, bringing in life to their space so that they could also feel good and feel positive with the situation going on.
So, Tiffany, I am a big fan of having plants around your workspace. And now that so many people are spending their entire workday at home, whether it's in the kitchen or in their office or any makeshift office, you need to have plants around you. But one thing I've noticed is many people have a plant and then you see them a couple weeks later, or you see it in their webcam and it's a dead plant. It's a plant that didn't survive. Maybe they weren't able to take care of it. What are some plants that you might recommend that are easy to take care of and still provide those health benefits?
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask us, the number one question people ask us on Plantiful is like, what plant can I not kill?
Right.
So it's a chuckle that I always have. And I say, you know what, this is perfect. This snake plant right here, if you can see on my webcam, is perfect. Doesn't need a lot of light, just some love.
Okay.
Um,
Snake plant.
the
Okay.
snake plant. Very unique plant too is a ZZ plant. I have one, but I'm not going to grab it. But you will look it up, and it looks beautiful. It's also on Plantiful.
Okay.
ZZ plants and cactuses. Cactuses are
Ah,
stunning right now for any plant space and scape that you want to style. We can definitely show you some examples on Plantiful and Co too. And then I'm going to share one really quick tip for keeping your plant baby alive and not having to say goodbye too early. It's don't overwater. Just let it do its thing. You can water it in the sink. A lot of people don't know that there's like a plastic pot within the actual pot. Just take it out and put it in the sink and water it, because draining. So if you think about it like a sauna or hot yoga room, if you don't air it out, it's going to cause mold, right? It's going to cause a
mm.
lot of like buildup. So let it breathe, let it water, let it flow, and you're going to be good to go.
Oh gosh, I'm going to need to listen to these instructions again. As soon as you said plant baby, I just realized that, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill my plant baby. But I don't want to, so I'm going to make sure I listen to that again, and we'll put those instructions too in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Tiffany, I want to thank you so much for sharing with everyone about your career pivots and your honesty and openness and willingness to talk about a subject that I think many people can relate to, but certainly would have trouble articulating how they're feeling and wondering what the next step is. Everyone can find Tiffany on LinkedIn, Tiffany Lai, and that's Tiffany with an INY at the end of her name
That's
as
right.
opposed to ANY. And make sure you check out Plantiful and Co. on Instagram at Plantiful and Co. And we'll put a link in the show notes. Tiffany Lai, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
And thank you all for listening and watching. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time.